Yeah, it's a long story. We actually got married at the Harborside Chapel and have been attending here since. I have 2 daughters, Harbor with a B, like Palm Harbor, Safety Harbor, Harborside. Yes, so there you go. She's almost 4, and Heidi is almost 15 months. Fun fact, Heidi and Mary's youngest were born only 3 hours apart. So God really, really put us in this season together. Yeah, thankfully. Okay, so before we dig in, I just want you guys to take a minute and think. In your head, write down, think about how you work, ways that you work. Maybe this is super easy for you and you're like, well, I physically go into an office every day. Maybe you work from home. Maybe you own your own company. Or maybe you're like, this totally doesn't pertain to me. I'm a full-time stay-at-home mom. Well, let me tell you, this really pertains to you if you're a full-time stay-at-home mom. You are constantly working. So the book really does a great way explaining how we approach work is going to influence how much time we have with our children, how much energy we have left over for them, but also how they're going to approach work with their own experiences as they grow. So we don't really think about the connection between work and God, or at least I didn't initially when I was asked to do this, but the concept of work is actually mentioned over 800 times in the Bible, per Google. God is always at work for us. He pours himself into work day and night. Just like our mother hands, we never stop just because it's 3 a.m. Doesn't mean we aren't being called by tiny humans as well, just like we call on him at any moment. Ephesians 6:7 says, work with enthusiasm, as though you're working for the Lord rather than people. Think that next time when you're making an amazing dinner no one's gonna eat. In verse 8, remember that the Lord will reward each of us for the good that we do. So remember, our time is coming. Work will become one of our greatest blessings or one of our greatest burdens. The story of Genesis calls us to work with him. We're meant to work. Work is not a way to make the ends of life meet. Work is better understood as the end that makes meaning to life. So this is a big one, Colossians 3:23. Whatever you do, work with it with all your heart as you're working for the Lord. Think of that connection that you can make daily, whether in or out of the home. Are you really working with all your heart for God as the focus? So again, this one's kind of convicting for me. I am one of the lucky ones who really loves my paid outside job. I've been a pediatric occupational therapist for 9 years, working mainly in the outpatient realm, helping children with genetic, chromosomal learning, sensory processing deficits. Essentially, I play with kids all day, which is their main occupation. Hence, occupational therapist. No one ever understands what I do. So there's that. I'm not a speech therapist. I'm not a physical therapist. Occupational therapist. So I do take my job playing with my clients very seriously. I give them my undivided attention for their hour-long sessions. But I got to thinking, what if I put this much purpose and dedication into playing with my own children in the same enthusiastic way? So even with all my kid experience in schooling, I quickly realized I needed more than just the book smarts after we had our first child. The postpartum depression, isolation can quickly sneak up unless you find your people and seek the Heavenly Father. I did take off 6 months with our first child, but then I went back to work 30 hours a week. She did daycare. I enjoyed work. I felt rewarded. Financially, it was a smart decision at the time. After our second was born, we decided it was time that either I was going to go back to work and we'd have to figure out daycare costs, which are crazy. So especially for 2 kids or more. So during this time, I really found myself praying a lot for kind of the first time asking for something. I never really had to ask or pray for something like that, and I did. And there were so many signs along the way that he was saying, you need to stop, you need to pull your first and be home. So we did it. I felt him tell me what we needed, and that was what the family needed. If you would have asked me if I would have ever not have been working, you would think I was crazy. So the moment we decided to pull our first and keep both of them home, it was actually a breath of relief. Everything was at peace. However, Mary can tell you, she found me crying the second day of my full-time at-mom role. Crying, I was crying downstairs somewhere, so it wasn't pretty at first. It sounded great, it wasn't pretty. I couldn't figure out how to organize. My type A brain could not figure out how to handle all these constant requests and needs. I still don't think I can do that right now, but when I focused on the bigger picture, and when I'm now focusing on the bigger picture of discipling future disciples, things got a lot easier, not prettier, a little easier. I am blessed to have a mother who retired after our second was born, so now I do go to the clinic still once a week, and I get to use my hands in that gifted way that I was given. Like Psalm 90:17 says, let the favor of the Lord God be upon us and establish the work of our hands upon us. So if you haven't read the book, it's great, but we're gonna kind of each talk about what the book does say too for more practical applications. So this is the 3 habits he talked about for work specific to bring that positive perspective to work into our house. The first one's really easy, it's just talking about work. God gave us all these special gifts, and maybe we can pass them to our kids. So when your kids ask, why do you have to go to work, Dad, Mom? Why do you have to go? Our responses should be more that I want to go to work. God made us to work. I want to do this. Maybe they'll ask, what do you do all day? You might have to get a little bit crafty here. Just like God's people help, just like God helps people, I help, I create, I serve. The second habit is inviting them into the work of the house. This is a hard one. We all have a desire to be included. That's why we're here. We want to be included. It's going to be messier. It's going to take a lot longer. And it's going to make more work for you. But the benefits are the best. You need quality time. Becky actually talked about this on our leader phone call this week. She just said, my kids just want to be near me. Doesn't matter if I'm cleaning a toilet or vacuuming. They think it's like so much fun. So we need the extra hands too. If you have even if you have one kid, but if you have a lot of kids, you need to use those hands. Kids they can really process things. My 15-month-old, if I tell her to go throw something in the trash, she thinks she won the world record by doing it now. So they really can do it. And it teaches them that satisfaction of task accomplishment. I know I love my check marks, give them those check marks. And it's teaching them that teamwork already that they need to learn. It is hard for us to let go and let them learn. We do sacrifice for their reward, but look at that, so did Jesus. And think about it this way. What if our goal isn't about how fast we get something done? I know I'm a very type A, fast. But let's look at the more spiritual way of it with service and pleasure. And the third one is letting them see us work outside the house. So Matthew 5:16 really shows that let your light shine before others so they can see your good works and give glory to the Father. So this could be easy. Maybe that's going to your office you work at. Maybe that's helping a neighbor. Maybe bringing food to a new mom. My kids love coming to my office, but they play with the endless toys. They get to see all their little kids play. But they also really are enjoying seeing me bring food to a new mom. My oldest, Harbor, actually said, when I brought meal to someone, they said, Mom, did that make you feel happy bringing your friend food? And it just made me see how a almost 4-year-old understands our reactions. They see our faces and how we process our emotions. Fun fact, this is how I was actually led to be an occupational therapist many years ago. Remember Take Your Daughter to Work Day? Well, I did that every year. My mom would bring me to the schools she was working at, and I'd watch her play with so many toys. It was always a positive experience, and it sparked my interest early on. I think it was only in elementary, middle school, whenever I was allowed to start going. So it's just to remind us, what if we could spark our kids' interest now? Kurt mentioned something that really stuck with me on a Sunday, that we need to stop praying for the circumstances we are in. The saying that God will only give you what you can handle is a total lie, which is funny because I've always been like, God's only going to give me what I can handle. He said, absolutely not. So I was like, I need to listen here. He said, God will give you way more than you can handle, so you seek him humbly and daily to get the power you need. Galatians 6:4 says, pay careful attention to your own work, for then you will get the satisfaction of a job well done. You don't need to compare yourself to anyone else. We don't need to do what every other mom is doing. We need to seek the power for the Lord to have our needs, our family needs, trust me, all of you guys are probably doing something way different than me, or way better, or that it's not what my family needs. And this kind of group can be almost, you might want to compare yourself to others, but that's not what this place is for. So whether you work full-time, part-time, full-time mom, he sees the work you're doing daily. He sees the constant requests you're fulfilling, the exhaustion when you're asked to play one more time, the mom guilt you might feel for having to leave your kids with someone else to go to work, or the jealousy you have towards your husband for not getting any PTO days. I know that one's mine too. So my dad was actually a full-time stay-at-home dad when my family moved from Boston to Florida. I was just 6 months old and my brother was 3. My dad stayed home with me for 5 years. He said it was the best time of his life, but it was not pretty at first. I'll never forget my mom was telling me how proud my dad spoke about how I was trying to pull off the stay-at-home mom role, and he said I looked good doing it, so I guess we're doing it. So if you aren't blessed with an earthly father like I am to verbalize this proudness of you, just know your heavenly Father sees you and is so proud. 1 Corinthians 16:13-14 says, be on guard, stand firm in the faith, be courageous, be strong, and do everything with love. There's always a never-ending list of things to do or work to be done, which is why we need rhythms of play to interrupt all the serious stuff and remind us that the world does not depend on it.
Okay, second is always hard. So Emma, thank you. Kirsten, thank you. This has been so much fun to sit here and listen to all of you. My name is Mary. I know a lot of you in this room, but if I don't know you, I would love to know you. So find me after. Let's be friends. Okay, let's a little bit about me. Let's start from the beginning too. I also have 2 girls. Emma mentioned it. I have an older daughter, Ada, who will be 3 this summer, and my second is 15 months, almost, same age as Heidi. God really did bring us together in all aspects of life, and this has been so much fun to do with you, Emma. So thank you for volunteering us to do this together, Alexis. Terrifying, but good for us because neither of us are public speakers, so this is pushing us outside of our comfort zone. I got the honor of doing the chapter on play, which is so fitting. I love play. And if you know me, you know I'm the goofiest goober that has ever lived. And it really came from my family. My family instilled this what my mom would call the joie de vivre, which if you speak French, don't come for me. My mother speaks French, I do not. But it's the joy of life. My mom is Canadian, and she grew up in this big, loud family, and they were all just jovial all the time. And she really taught us to have this joy of life. Beyond the just being happy, though, she taught us that we had a deep, abounding joy because of the hope that we have that is found in Jesus Christ. And I didn't appreciate that as a child, and the older I get, the more I realize how intentional my parents had to be to teach us that. So some of the small things. My dad was a masterful storyteller, so at nighttime he would do a choose your own adventure, and you get to choose, are you going to be a princess or a dog tonight, or choose your peril, what's going to happen in your story, or he would tell us these, what he called the good neighbor stories. So he would tell us, like, okay, if our neighbor was having this issue, what would you do to be a good neighbor? And he would just, I don't know how he came up with this stuff, he was so creative. So he would tell us stories. We had rhythms in our life. Saturday mornings, pancake breakfast. Every Saturday, my dad would be up making banana pancakes. We would put a big picnic blanket out in our living room. We would watch Looney Tunes. We would eat pancakes. We would usually run around outside afterwards. I'm also one of 6 kids. Shout out to Leah Powers, who has 6 right now. Listen, yeah, you guys, it was so fun to grow up in a house where we loved to play, but it is controlled chaos at all times. At all times. As you're young, as you're older, 6 kids is a lot. But it was so much fun, and I have so many fond memories of my childhood because my parents instilled play in the foundation of everyday life. And they didn't put on this huge show. In reminiscing about this and preparing for this chapter, I kept thinking, it doesn't have to be a grandiose, something that you have to plan out and build for your kids. You just have to make the everyday simply fun. And that turned into, in my house growing up too, Work is fun. We all had chores that we had to do, but we would have a dance party doing it. Or we knew that if Dad went to Sam's Club, as soon as that car pulled up, we formed an assembly line, and there were a lot of us, so this worked. And we would do fire drills, bringing the groceries in the house, and we would have these competitions of I can pick up heavier stuff than you, and it was just fun. Our everyday was fun, still chaotic, but fun. So let's go to what the book said. The book talks about the main idea. And if you don't have this book or you haven't listened to this book, highly, highly, highly recommend. It's on Spotify if you want to listen for free too, if you want to catch up. I know the videos have been really helpful to review the content, but it's so, so powerful. So highly recommend reading the whole thing. Here's a quote. Getting lost in fun and imaginative play is an echo of the kingdom to come, a sign of a world that is full of joy. Practicing good habits of play is a way of cultivating a more Christian imagination that foreshadows the kingdom to come. So Justin in the book really talks about how the gospel can really seem like a made-up fairy tale, right? If you're explaining the gospel to somebody who's never heard it before, you're expecting people to believe in angels and demons and a virgin birth and people raising from the dead. It takes a lot of imagination almost for people who don't understand faith, and that faith requires so much of us. So he really emphasizes that to play is an exercise of imagining the kingdom, a practice of bearing witness to it right in our own living rooms and our backyards. So 3 habits. Habitually read imaginative stories to your kids. He talks about how there is so much good content out there. And if you want a list, if you don't have the book, his wife gave him a list of books that are helpful, broken down by age category in the back of the book. Happy to take a picture.
It's on their website too.
It's on their website too, there you go. And it's just some of the stories I'd never heard of before, but started looking into. They look really good. But he talks about some of the classic good versus evil novels out there, the Chronicles of Narnia, things that parallel Christian themes and can help your children with their imaginative imagination and thinking through the gospel, but through good stories. Habit number 2, habitually accept their invitations to play. Emma mentioned this a little bit with her job being play, but then realizing like, oh my gosh, do I play with my own children? If you're anything like me and you have young kids at home, they ask you constantly, do you want to come play with me? Can you help me build a fort? Can you put this costume on me? Can you put a costume on? Can you play with this with me? And it's just all day, every day. He mentions, and I'll get more to this in a minute, that we should not accept all of their invitations to play. That would be outrageous, right? None of us can or should spend all day playing with our children. But we should treat play like a job. When you are playing with your kids, put away your phone. Give them your undivided attention. Really lean into playing with them and using your imagination with them and showing them what it looks like to play and to play well. When I was thinking through this, I really, again, thought of my parents and what a blessing to have parents that I can look up to like this and now look back and think, oh my gosh, I want a parent like they parented me. That's such a blessing, and I know that, and I tell them all the time how blessed I am for that. But I remember when my dad would actually play with us, and he would come home from work. Granted, they didn't have smartphones, so maybe it was a little easier to not go check his email, okay? But he would come, and we thought he was hilarious. We had never thought of that before. You're using your imagination like we'd never seen before, and we loved playing with him. So again, like you mentioned that Becky said on our call, our kids just want to be with us. They want to play with us. So set aside time to play with them and really give them your all when you're playing with them. However, habit number 3, habitually send them out to play on their own. Get them outside. Tell them to go play alone. Make sure that they are faced with boredom, that they have to tackle it on their own, and they have to figure out what it looks like to have an imagination and to create on their own. This is really hard to do if you have children under the age of 3, like I do. They don't understand playing on their own quite yet. So sometimes for me that takes a lot of creativity on my part to set something up for them and to say, look what I set up outside for you. Now go play with it. Mommy has dishes to do or laundry to do. But really let them see you work in your home and focus on, I also have a job and you need to play, so I need to work. Or invite them into your work like Emma talked about too. These really do go hand in hand. It's really fun. So he ends this chapter with something really special and near and dear to my heart. We've talked about work, we've talked about play. He ends it with rest and the idea of Sabbath. So I wanted to take a quick poll. How many of you in this room know really what Sabbath is, and or practice a rhythm of Sabbath in your home that has like traditions behind it. Kind of, yeah. Kind of, sort of. I would be in that category. Sort of. So a lot of people just think the Sabbath is Sunday, right? So first of all, I'll hold up this book because this has helped me a lot too. Have any of you heard of The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer? Somebody's giggling. Okay, we love it. Yes, it's very good. If anybody wants a picture or wants to borrow this book, highly recommend. It is essentially a pastor out west, John Mark Comer, wrote this book about if we want to be followers of Jesus, we have to live how Jesus lived, right? And he lived with moments of silence and solitude, and he honored the Sabbath. So what does that look like practically? So Sabbath actually comes from the word Shabbat, which is a Jewish tradition of every Friday, the Shabbat. I actually had the amazing opportunity to go to a Shabbat dinner in Israel when we visited, which was incredible. A lot of cool ritual and tradition behind Shabbat dinner. Shabbat literally means to stop or to delight. So the idea of Sabbath is to stop and to delight. It's to rest. And it's, so okay, I'm gonna read a quote actually from John Mark Comer about what it is. If you're new to the Sabbath, a question to give shape to your practice is this: what could I do for 24 hours that will fill my soul with a deep, throbbing joy that would make me spontaneously combust with wonder, awe, gratitude, and praise? He says later, we are to work hard to rest well. There's a discipline to the Sabbath that is really hard for a lot of us. It takes a lot of intentionality. It won't just happen to you. It takes planning and preparation. It takes self-control, the capacity to say no to a list of good things so that you can say yes to the best. But Sabbath is the primary discipline or practice by which we cultivate the spirit of restfulness in our lives as a whole. He ends talking a lot about, we have a lot of excuses, right? Sunday, I'm prepping for the week, or I have young kids. I never get to rest. What are you talking about resting for 24 hours? God rested. God did. He created the entire world and everything in it, and then he rested. And he has called us to do the same. So if God can do it, I think we could probably try to do it too. But to Robbie and I, this was so convicting for me because we used to have a really good rhythm of Sabbath, and having our second threw us in a tizzy, and we have not found our way back to this, and we would really like to, because I found that for me, my soul is at peace regardless of circumstances when we are Sabbathing and Sabbathing well. My soul feels anxious, and I feel the hurried pace of life when I am not resting and resting well. But for us, we chose a different 24-hour period. We chose from Saturday morning to Sunday morning because we did know that Sunday afternoon he was getting his MBA at this point. He had homework to do. I had things to prep for the week. I was working at that point in life. But we chose to Sabbath by choosing two roles. Is it full of rest, and is it full of worship? That's it. We didn't overcomplicate it. It, to us, looked like good community surrounding us, getting outside, being in nature, being in wonder and in awe of who God is and what he's created, worshiping with community at church on Sunday mornings, being a part of a godly community that could fill our cup, but also a space where we could worship the Lord. So pick my challenges, pick a 24-hour period in the week that you can Sabbath and that you can rest. Be intentional about it. Be protective of your time with it. Teach your children to rest. Teach your children what it looks like to Sabbath. And they're going to be crazy. They're going to want to play. Take them outside, take them on a walk, take them on a hike, teach them to be, and especially with older kids. I don't have older kids yet, but I do think this concept of play and rest, for older kids, to me, it comes down to a sense of teaching them to be enchanted and to have awe and wonder in the world, right? You're not going to have a teenager that's going to ask you to play. I don't think. I don't have teenagers yet, but when I was a teenager, I didn't ask my parents to play all the time. But it was, my parents had given me this foundation of having this sense of awe and wonder. And so I learned to see the world as a place where I could create and I could play and I could have joy regardless of what was going on in my world. So those of you with older kids, and to our night crew, I think we're being videoed for the night crew, that would be my recommendation. So practical application, we've already talked a lot about this, but play can be easy and practical. It can just look like playing with toys with your kids, but really teaching joy in the simplicity of everyday life, teaching your children that God has created this world for us to go and to create and enjoy these good things that He's blessed us with. It will be such a life-giving and lifelong skill to teach them. Work and play go hand in hand. Being a stay-at-home mom, Emma's already said it, it's really hard work. You have to be intentional with your time. Being a working mom is really hard work. I did that for a short period of time after I had my first. It's really hard. But find joy in those little moments. Find joy in the work of raising your children. Find joy in the work of your hands outside of the home. Find joy in the simplicity of the little everyday moments of life. And look to the Lord and find the joy that He has given you deep down in your soul. Okay, so we wanted to end today by, we have 2 liturgies. I brought another book that if anybody wants to take a picture, it's called Every Moment Holy. It's liturgies for every moment of life, literally every moment of life. There's one on changing diapers in here. Who thought there would be a liturgy on changing diapers? Not me. So on your table, there is a piece of paper. On one side, it has a liturgy for domestic days and a liturgy for the working mother. So we wanted to kind of close by having a time of reflection. We're going to let you all just read through these on your own time and just spend a moment with the Lord. We're going to have some quiet music in the background, but spend some time thinking about your rhythms of work, play, and rest, and what that looks like for you. But these prayers are kind of a starting point for you or a guideline. And that's it from us. Thank you guys for having us today.
You guys did amazing. You did so good. Lots of things to think about. You did